November 1969. For 4 months, the murders of actress Sharon Tate and 6 others were still a mystery. What the authorities didn't know was that one of Tate's killers, 20-year-old Susan Sadie Atkins, was already sitting in a Los Angeles County jail, charged with the murder of musician Gary Hinman.
I noticed her only because she was happy and running around and dancing and singing, and I can remember thinking, this is really not the place for this kind of joy.
Atkins' friendship with Virginia Graham would break the case wide open. They shared a dormitory in prison. It wasn't long before Susan confided that she had been involved in another, bigger crime, the notorious Tate LaBianca murders.
It was said with great glee. There was not any remorse in the least about it, because she kept saying, well, you know, you really have to love somebody to kill them.
Sadie had another shocking revelation. The other killers were hiding in the desert, and if they could help it, the Tate LaBianca murders wouldn't be their last. Graham felt responsible and tipped off the police. On her tip, the police rounded up the rest of the killers: Patricia Krenwinkel, Leslie Van Houten, Linda Kasabian, Tex Watson, and Charles Manson. In December 1969, they were all charged with murder.
I couldn't believe that such a thing existed. 5 of them. What the hell are you going to do? You say somebody's nuts. Not partially nuts, they're wholly nuts.
In the hail of publicity, the Manson girls maintained an eerie calm, often cheerfully singing songs written by Charlie. The trial of Manson and the girls, Pat, Susan and Leslie, went ahead in June 1970 without Tex Watson, who was fighting extradition from his home state of Texas. In exchange for her testimony, all charges were dropped against Linda Kasabian.
She indicted all of them. She said that they had gone out, that they had instructions from Manson, that they were told to wear creepy crawlies, which were their black outfits, and that they were bent on murder.
For almost a year, Manson played right into the prosecution's argument that he controlled and directed the girls. They were as obedient in court as they had been at the murder scene.
The entire proceedings were scripted by Charlie. Every day we'd meet and he'd decide, well, today I want you each to stand up and hold your hands in some stupid symbols. You're going to get up and scream, the old gray mare. You're going to burn an X in your head. You know, each day was scripted.
They would jump up in court and start chanting, "The judge is just a woman, the judge is just a woman." Well, that was horrifying to the women in the courtroom. That was seen by Charlie as the biggest insult.
Throughout the trial, the giggling Manson girls seemed strangely detached. Now they say that if they appeared to be out of touch with reality, it's because they were still living in Manson's make-believe world, taking LSD in jail and responding to his every whim.
He was talking about how time was going to stop, that we were all just going to walk out, that everything was just going to stop. And we believed that.
When I went to the jail after it happened, and Leslie said to me she didn't know whether to cut holes in the back of her blouse or sew little pockets for her wings. She thought she was an angel.
I even asked Pat and Susan, how am I going to hide my wings? I could feel them nubbing out.
A dancing clown upon the wall is calling all.
Just outside the courtroom, the rest of the family were making a bizarre display of devotion.
We're going to stay here until Charlie's out.
For almost 10 months, they kept a faithful vigil, all the while weaving a vest for their guru. Like the girls inside, they mirrored Manson's every move. And with Manson in custody, it was mainly Squeaky Froome who handled the reporters and curious crowds.
But they can't grab at it, you know. They just have to be patient and give. And it's in everybody.
They said I was a spokesman. I was never a spokesman. They said I was a lieutenant. We weren't lieutenants. We didn't have orders. We didn't have badges. We weren't appointed anything. We did what we wanted to do. Each one of us took up what we felt we could carry, and we did it because we wanted to. If we did it because we thought it would make Charlie happy, We must have loved him or something like that.
On January the 25th, 1971, it came as no surprise that all 4 defendants, Charlie, Leslie, Pat and Susan, were found guilty of multiple murders. And when it was time for the jury to decide whether they would live or die, the Manson girls finally took the stand. But it wasn't their own lives they wanted to save. It was Charlie's.
After the trial started, Charlie suggested that we meaning the 3 women, try to carry the load of the case so that he could be released, you know, so that he could further carry on his works to save the world.
On March the 29th, 1971, 21-year-old Leslie Van Houten, 22-year-old Susan Atkins, and 23-year-old Patricia Krenwinkel became the youngest women to sit on California's death row. The jury sentenced all 3 women and their guru to die in the gas chamber at San Quentin.
I was more than willing to go to the gas chamber. The death penalty for me at the time seemed, it almost justified my not having to deal with what I had done. It was the eye for an eye. They're going to kill me, I don't have to deal with it.
But away from Manson's direct influence, Leslie, Pat and Susan would have time to reflect on the horror of their crimes. Meanwhile, 22-year-old Squeaky Froome had lost the only family with whom she'd ever felt truly at home, and she was devastated.
I didn't understand what it meant. I didn't know that we would be separated. I want to talk to the women. I want to talk to the girls. They're still girls to me. They'll always be girls, as I am, in that one part.
She felt guilty that they had done much more and she hadn't. She was still free. She was not in prison. She was not facing this type of sacrifice that they had been called to make.
While Manson and the women sat on death row, Squeaky tried to bring together what was left of the family. It was an increasingly hopeless task, and guilt and grief would soon drive her to desperate measures.